Have you ever wondered how ancient civilizations dealt with mental health issues? This question leads us to the dawn of psychiatry, a discipline that has evolved significantly over centuries. Today we'll be delving into the intriguing origins of psychiatry. In the earliest civilizations, mental illness was often attributed to supernatural forces. An individual suffering from what we now recognize as a psychiatric disorder was believed to be possessed by evil spirits or cursed by gods. This belief was not confined to any one culture, but was prevalent across ancient Egypt, Greece, and Rome. In response to such conditions, exorcism was a common practice. It was thought that by performing certain rituals or incantations, these malevolent spirits could be driven out, restoring the individual to their former state. While this seems primitive to our modern understanding, it's important to remember that this was a time when the complexities of the human mind were largely unknown. However, even in these ancient times, there were glimmers of a more scientific approach. In Egypt, for instance, early forms of psychotherapy were practiced. Priests would use methods such as dream interpretation to gain insights into the individual's mental state. The cornerstone of psychiatric thinking, however, was laid by the Greeks. Hippocrates, often hailed as the father of medicine, proposed a radical idea. He suggested that mental illness had a biological basis and was not due to supernatural causes. This was a revolutionary concept, challenging the dominant belief system of the time. Hippocrates believed that an imbalance in the body's four humors, blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile, was the cause of all diseases, including mental illnesses. Although this theory has been debunked, it was a significant step towards understanding that mental disorders have a physical origin. The Romans, too, contributed to the early development of psychiatry. They established the first hospitals and initiated the tradition of caring for the mentally ill in a community setting, a practice that continues to this day. From the rudimentary treatments of the ancients, the field of psychiatry has come a long way. As we journey through history, we'll see how this discipline has evolved, always striving to understand and heal the human mind. As we venture into the Middle Ages and the Renaissance, how did the understanding of mental health evolve? Well, the Middle Ages brought about a significant shift in perception towards mental illness. It was a time of superstition and fear, a time when mental illness was often seen as a divine punishment or the result of demonic possession. This perspective, while harsh, was in line with the general worldview of the time. The mentally ill were often ostracized from society, left to fend for themselves or, in worse cases, subjected to exorcisms and witch trials. But this dark period also saw the birth of the first asylums, institutions meant to house and care for the mentally ill. While these early asylums were far from the ideal therapeutic environments, they represented society's first attempts at providing systematic care for the mentally ill. As the Renaissance dawned, there was a shift towards a more scientific understanding of the world, and with it, the beginnings of the medical model of mental illness. The Renaissance brought about the idea that mental illnesses were diseases that affected the brain, not curses or demonic possessions. Two figures prominently stand out during this period: Paracelsus and Robert Burton. Paracelsus, a Swiss physician and alchemist, challenged the prevailing belief of the time. He proposed that mental illnesses were not punishments from God, but rather were diseases that could be treated like any other. Then there was Robert Burton, an English scholar whose seminal work, The Anatomy of Melancholy, remained a reference point for centuries. Burton proposed that mental health issues could be caused by a range of factors, including social, environmental, and biological influences. He argued for a more compassionate and understanding approach to those suffering from such ailments. Despite the grim realities of asylums, the seeds for modern psychiatry were being sown. The Middle Ages and the Renaissance, for all their misconceptions and mistreatments, were instrumental in moving the conversation forward and setting the stage for a more enlightened understanding of mental health. Moving into the Age of Enlightenment, how did societal attitudes towards mental health begin to change? As we step into this new era, we see a shift in the perception of mental health. This shift was largely influenced by key figures who began to advocate for a more humane approach to treating mental illness. One of these key figures was Philippe Pinel, a French physician who is often credited with the introduction of moral treatment. Pinel believed in treating patients with kindness and respect, a stark contrast to the harsh conditions that were commonplace in asylums of the time. He introduced the concept of moral management, where patients were encouraged to engage in structured daily routines and therapeutic activities, such as gardening and crafting, to help manage their symptoms. Across the English Channel, William Tuke, a Quaker tea and coffee merchant, was also making strides in the field of mental health. Tuke's family had suffered personal tragedy when a relative died in an asylum, and this spurred him to establish the York Retreat in 1796. The York Retreat was a place where the mentally ill were treated with dignity and compassion, a far cry from the typical asylums of the day. These changes in attitude were not just confined to individuals, but began to permeate society as a whole. During the Age of Enlightenment, many state hospitals were established, with the intention of providing humane care for the mentally ill. This marked the beginning of a shift away from the cruel and inhumane treatments that were previously the norm. However, it's important to note that while these developments marked significant progress, they were not without their challenges. Despite the best intentions of figures like Pinel and Tuke, the reality of implementing these humane treatments was often more complex. Limited resources, societal stigma, and a lack of understanding about mental illness often resulted in less than ideal conditions within these state hospitals. The Age of Enlightenment brought about a more humane approach to treating mental illness, yet the journey was far from over. As we approach the 19th and 20th centuries, what significant strides were made in the field of psychiatry? The answer to this question leads us to the birth of modern psychiatry. This era was marked by a seismic shift in our understanding and treatment of mental health conditions. The advent of psychoanalysis, pioneered by Sigmund Freud, was one of the most significant developments. Freud's work brought the unconscious mind into the spotlight, suggesting that our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors are influenced by unconscious desires and memories. His therapy method, often depicted with a patient lying on a couch, became a symbol of psychiatry itself. However, the 20th century didn't just stop at the exploration of the mind, it also saw the development of psychiatric medication in the 1950s. Chlorpromazine, the first antipsychotic, revolutionized the treatment of schizophrenia and other severe mental disorders. This marked the beginning of psychopharmacology, the study of how drugs affect mood, sensation, thinking, and behavior. Since then, a myriad of medications have been developed to treat everything from depression to anxiety, bipolar disorder, and beyond. The latter part of the 20th century brought about the deinstitutionalization movement. The aim was to move mental health patients from long-term institutions into community-based services. This shift was not without its challenges, but it was a crucial step towards humanizing and personalizing mental health care. Parallel to these developments, the biopsychosocial model began to gain traction. This model proposes that our mental health is not just a result of biological factors, but also psychological processes and social circumstances. It's a comprehensive approach that considers the whole person and their environment. And let's not forget cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. This form of treatment focuses on changing negative thought patterns and behaviors to improve mental health. It's a practical, hands-on approach that has proven effective for a wide range of disorders. From Freud's couch to modern psychopharmacology, psychiatry has witnessed remarkable advancements. This journey has been marked by continuous exploration and innovation, shaping the multifaceted field of psychiatry that we know today. Now let's leap into the present. How has psychiatry evolved in the 21st century? In the blink of an eye, we're in the 21st century, a time of rapid advancements and evolving perspectives. Today, psychiatry stands at the forefront of personalized medicine, tailoring treatments to the individual's unique genetic makeup, lifestyle, and environment. This shift signals a move away from the one-size-fits-all approach, embracing instead the complexities and nuances of the human mind. Yet, the journey doesn't end there. The integration of technology is revolutionizing psychiatry as we know it. Telepsychiatry, for instance, is breaking down geographical barriers, providing mental health services to individuals in remote areas. Furthermore, we're seeing the rise of digital therapeutics, using technology to augment or even replace traditional therapies. Imagine an app that can help manage anxiety, or a virtual reality program to treat post-traumatic stress disorder. But progress isn't just about shiny gadgets and cutting-edge treatments, it's also about shifting attitudes. Today, there's a growing emphasis on preventive care in psychiatry. It's not just about treating mental illnesses, but also about promoting mental wellness, equipping individuals with the tools to navigate life's ups and downs. Yet despite these strides, challenges persist. The stigma associated with mental health remains a formidable barrier, often preventing individuals from seeking help. It's a reminder that our journey is far from over, that there's still much work to be done. we're also grappling with the ethical implications of emerging technologies. As we harness the power of artificial intelligence in genomics, questions about privacy, consent, and the potential for misuse inevitably arise. These are issues we must navigate with care, balancing the promise of innovation with the responsibility to do no harm. In the face of these challenges, psychiatry remains a field of hope and resilience. It's a testament to our collective determination to understand the human mind, to alleviate suffering, and to help individuals live their best lives. As we look to the future, the journey of psychiatry continues, ever striving to understand and heal the human mind.